Good morning, folks, and thank you for giving up your time. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Matt Hawkins. Not only am I a financial advisor in a small practice in Hobart, but I'm also the AFA Treasurer and Tasmanian State Director. And today I'm excited to introduce you to today's webinar titled Lead Yourself and Others to Optimal Cognitive Energy and Profits, brought to you in partnership with Next Evolution Performance. And today you'll hear from Vanessa Bennett, who you can see on the screen. A fantastic bio. I can't miss out on introducing Vanessa. And for those of you who haven't heard Vanessa or seen her at an AFA conference in the past, Vanessa is the CEO of Next Evolution Performance, a global high-performance coaching business focused on helping leaders, business owners, individuals, and teams to maximize performance and to decrease overall effort to ensure that high performance and therefore profitability is sustained. I'm sure that's a topic all of you are at the tip of your tongues right now, whilst we are going through these challenging times. Vanessa's got over 20 years of experience in financial services and health and fitness with the coaching, and certainly was the head of financial advisor distributions for Dimensional Fund Advisors, and also held numerous senior sales roles with Macquarie. Vanessa is also a qualified group fitness instructor whilst completing her undergraduate university studies, and has been with Fitness First for over 16 years. Coupled with that, Vanessa is also currently studying her Masters in Psychology and Neuroscience of Mental Health. In what can only be classed as an evolving landscape, there is no doubt that right now, advisors need to be more efficient than ever before. More compliance, more red tape, more regulation. Many people are working on how to run more efficient business processes, which is a great start, but most don't realise that with a basic understanding of neuroscience and some easy to implement tools that you're going to learn today, you can increase the efficiency of your human processes. In today's webinar, Vanessa will explore what cognitive energy is, why it's important for your business profitability, and a few quick tips to get you started. Before we begin, a couple of housekeeping. We are going to keep this very interactive, so please use the Q&A box down the bottom rather than the chat box. If you want to have questions throughout the webinar, throw it in there. We'll facilitate as much as we can. Up to one CPD point will be available off the back of today's webinar, and the webinar will also be loaded up to the afa.asn.au website over the next couple of days. So without further ado, let me introduce Vanessa. Let's kick it off. Vanessa, we've got a great number of participants here, all willing to learn how to make this challenging time easier for us. But I've got to ask you, what is cognitive energy? I've Googled it. I've got no idea. So kick us off, Vanessa Bennett.
I know, it's just a fancy term really for mental energy. So when you think about, like, have you ever had a time when you've been really tired, and how productive were you? All right. And you probably had those days where you feel like you've run a marathon and you've barely left your desk. All right. That's when we're really low on what we call cognitive energy, or mental energy is another way to describe that. So it's just like your brain's really hungry. Okay, your brain takes so much energy out of the fuel that we consume. It's about probably 25 to 30% that just goes straight to our brains. So we need to use that really effectively so that we can get more done in less time with less effort, and stop pontificating as much. And we spend a lot of energy credits like overthinking things as well. So we've got to make sure that we keep that all in check.
Yeah, looking challenging, no doubt. I mean, when you talk about a day-to-day life as a financial advisor right now, so much regulation, so much compliance, our days are full of so many challenging things. And no doubt, like most of us out there, I'm feeling pretty burned out and pretty tired by Friday afternoon. So what can we do, and why is it important?
Yeah, so cognitive energy, I think one of the first pieces of information that's really, really important to understand and really eye-opening for a lot of people. It's quite confronting when you first find it out, but then when you realize that that is the case and you just work out how to work with that, it's a lot easier. So I think one of the first things to realize is that when it comes to cognitive energy, to do really heavy, demanding tasks that take a lot of thinking or difficult conversations, things like that, we've actually only got about 4 to 6 hours a day maximum available to use that heavy cognitive energy. And one of the things I see advisors do all the time, and this happened especially once, all the compliance regimes came in and people were swimming in statements of advice and compliance and regulation and all this kind of thing. People were trying to get it done really fast, and they were basically scheduling and saying, okay, no, I'm not taking on clients for now. I'm just going to sit here and focus and do this, and I'm going to do this 10 hours a day. And what happened was, it's just not neuroscientifically possible to even do that. So next thing you know, people are spending more time than they think doing something. It then takes longer. They then make more mistakes. It then becomes really frustrating for people. And then they spend more cognitive energy on getting angry and frustrated at themselves when they don't even have the cognitive energy available in the first place. So I think one of the first things for people to understand is that now that you know that you've only got 4 to 6 hours of this a day, 4 on average, you can train it to about 6. Okay, but assume you've got somewhere between 4 and 6 hours. Do the maths, that's less than your average day at work. All right, and think about this from a client perspective, from a staff perspective. Okay, if all of your staff are like this as well, if they're all trying to work on heavy tasks and things like that for extended periods of time, it's going to take them longer to do things. It's going to be more stressful, and it's basically going to end up costing your bottom line on how to do this. So it really does equal profits. Yeah.
And Vanessa, you talk about heavy tasks, right? So heavy and light tasks. Are you talking in terms of a person's day, the ebbs and flows of energy? How do you articulate what a heavy task is and a light task is? Otherwise, if for our advisors listening out there, if I throw that out with my staff, and we have done a session with you, my staff always said, great, we're working 4-hour days, which probably doesn't work for a business owner. So how do you look into that?
Yeah, and that's a good one. We always find that, you can always see the looks on people's faces. And when we run the session in your office, it was no exception. You can see people looking, going, is she saying that we should all finish by lunchtime? This sounds awesome. But no, I'm unfortunately not saying that. The idea is that not all tasks take a heavy use of cognitive energy. So some tasks take a heavy use, some tasks take a medium use, some tasks take a light use of energy. And so it's a matter of really making sure that you're mixing those in throughout the day. So once you find that you've got, okay, well, this task might be heavy for one person, it might be light for someone else. Okay, but whatever it is for you, it's just own it and be okay with that. So if that's heavy for you, then you need to make sure that you're scheduling each day no more than about 4 to 6 hours worth of those kind of tasks. So the first step is for most people is just actually to go through and understand their to-do list according to whether it's heavy, medium, or light.
Yep.
So most people are structuring their to-do list based on what's the next most urgent thing to do. So this prioritizing your to-do list according to urgency is one of the easiest ways for this to go completely awry and for things to be taking a lot longer than they need to.
Yeah, it's a really interesting one. So to-do list, I'm no different. You look at your list and you go, right, here's the 20 things I've got to get done today in terms of urgency. So are you saying one of the tasks that a lot of our advisors and business owners out there to do as a starting point is actually understand what their week looks like and start to break those things down into different pillars?
Yeah, so the first thing is understand what is heavy, medium, and light for you. You should know that at all points in time. So what drains your energy, what gives it to you, and what's kind of somewhere in the middle. So when you know that, then you can start working out how to schedule those. So then you start to think about, well, what's my most productive hour in the day? What's my next most productive hour in the day? And we like to call them hours of power. So I had one of my clients who, she was already pretty organized. And actually I did this with another one of my clients as well, and just recently, and he was not so organized to start with, so it was really interesting seeing the two of them, and even the one who was really organized, she ended up still getting an extra 2 to 3 hours of effective time per day each day. And so the person who was less organized to start with, he ended up getting about 3 hours of effective time in addition in his day. And it's not even so much just how much more you're getting done, it's also how do you feel at the end of the day. Like if you're going home after work and all you can think about is just, oh, I've got nothing but a glass of wine on the couch and that's all I can deal with. If that means that, you know, the thought of kids is just exhausting, the thought of talking to anyone is exhausting. If that's you at the end of the day, like you need to make a change, because there is just more to life than going home and feeling like that. And don't forget, you know, this 4 to 6 hours of heavy cognitive energy, that's across everything. So that includes whatever's going on outside of work as well. So if you're dealing with things in the family, could be sick kids, aging parents, could be any of these kind of things that are going on, any difficult conversations you need to have with people, all of that contributes to this. So you might find that you get to work and you don't have 4 hours left based on what you've already spent, or you might get home in the afternoon or in the evening, and then you've got to talk about something else, and it's just like, oh, I just have nothing left to talk about that. So, you know, if you're spending your weekends exhausted, if you're spending evenings exhausted, just because you've used so much mental energy during the day, that's not a way to live. You know, and that's not sustainable. That's when we start to see the development of, you know, mental health problems, this feeling of meh. You know, it's like, yeah, I don't have a mental health problem, but I'm not firing on all cylinders, so I'm kind of somewhere in between. That's not a great way to live your life either. So, so this is not just making good business sense and getting more done and being more profitable. This is also helping you to lead a life, which is kind of cool outside of work as well.
And you touched on something that I just want to delve into a little bit deeper. So you said some people's heavy tasks, maybe other people's light tasks. Explain how you pick up on those differences with different staff members.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is a great way when you go about hiring someone. So some people on the line may have interacted with my assistant. Her name is Karen. I always joke, everybody needs a Karen. She's amazing. But when I was going through the process of realizing that I needed a Karen, I didn't really know what I needed. And so I literally just went through and I went, okay, anytime I was working on a task that was heavy and draining my energy, and it just turned out that it was a lot of like admin stuff, like scheduling, logistics, travel, all this kind of stuff, which would just did my head in. I just put it on a list. And then I went, okay, that's actually what I need someone else to do. And I don't just need them to do it, I need them to find it light. So
Yep.
that becomes a job description for your next hire. Now, to this day, like Karen loves her job. To this day, I have no idea why. Like it would be my idea of just hell. But she loves it and she loves that kind of stuff and she's super organized. And so it's one of those things that we don't have to understand, that other people find different tasks light that we find heavy. We just need to accept it, embrace it, and run with it and work with it as much as we can. So it's really important to have that as part of your hiring process, and making sure that your job descriptions are really clear as well. So many times I see people being quite generic in their job descriptions, and it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to get the person who likes to do the things that they need them to do. And it can just cost businesses so much more money. So if you have a whole business where people are mostly working on light to medium things, people are saving energy and they're getting more done in less time with less effort, it's way more profitable for your business.
Just say that again. More done, less time, and less effort. I mean,
Yeah.
I think I think for most of us out there, that's the ideal. That's the blue oceans. That's the dream. And so this cognitive energy concept, the neuroscience behind it, it obviously has some basis. Can you delve into that a little bit deeper as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So there've been studies done on neuroscientists around this, because they were kind of studying, well, how much of this do we have every day? And this idea of people were trying to manage time, but people feel differently over different times of the day. So some people, and some people sort of talk about it in terms of like natural biorhythms. But some people, roughly about 60% of the population are your classic morning people. And then about 40% of the population wants to poke those people's eyes out. There's about a 20% of that that's probably a few hours behind the morning people. And there's about 20% of the population who we really do feel sorry for, because the world's just not made for them. You know, they're more sort of the night owls. And so different people feel that they can do things at different times, and that's okay. So the good thing about COVID is that it's really taught us that we can kind of structure our days however that works for people, and we shouldn't just have these our working hours between these times, because different people work at different times. If you can stagger start times and things like that, then quite often even the clients are happier with that, because they've got more access to be able to contact your business at a certain time. So, so the more that you can understand that it's not just a time management thing, it's cognitive energy. It's like they did studies on, all sorts of things around, how people use their energy throughout the day, how it's linked between physical energy and how it's all inextricably linked together. So it's really important that we start to think now, not in terms of time, but in terms of this energy concept, and how much does how much energy does certain things take. And we've put together this, like what we call currency. We call it energy credits. So to kind of think about how many energy credits is that taking versus how many energy credits does another task take you, or does that task take somebody else? So the idea being is you want to maximize the energy credits of everyone in the business. And there's an article coming out in the AFA magazine on this that I've put together with a few just really easy examples, putting some maths to this. Imagine if you've got even a practice of 5 people who get an extra 2 hours of effective time per day. That's like more than hiring an extra person. If you're going to put on an extra person for even $70,000 or $80,000, that can be $500,000 over 5 years, let alone if your practice is bigger and you're looking to, have the exponential benefits of that. So this is a thing, and this equates to very real money. If you want to go and spend an extra $500,000 over the next 5 years for a person, knock yourself out. But I don't know that makes a lot of sense, but that's just me.
and you touched on something else as well. This is not just your Monday to Friday, 8:30 to 5. Cognitive energy doesn't start when you walk in the lift and doesn't end when you leave the lift. So people's lives outside of those 8:30 to 5 work hours, for those of you who work 8:30 to 5, it's certainly, life changes, as you touched on, kids, families, dogs, all that sort of stuff. So how do you help people? I mean, if I have 2 young kids, a lot of stuff going outside of hours, I could literally have no cognitive energy to expel during my workday. How do you handle that? How do you advise and how do you educate people on what they can do?
Exactly. So part of it's to do with mindset, and that's a whole bigger issue, which I won't sort of get too into today. We could talk for weeks on that. But a lot of it's actually just maximizing your cognitive energy when you have it. So for example, you could work on something at one time of the day. Like I had one of my clients who was working on a task in the afternoon, and she was more of a morning person. This was a heavy task for her, and it was taking her an hour and 20 minutes. She moved it to the different time of the day. She started at 8 a.m. and it took her 20 minutes. So that's an extra hour at a day, and it just freed up an extra bit of not just time, but it freed up a lot of energy for her to then go and talk to new clients, for example. So it's making sure that when you're at work, you use your cognitive energy really efficiently, because often that's the easier bit to control. Okay, controlling stuff outside of work is often a lot harder. Yep. So ideally, you want to be doing things that also give you energy. So time with a family. Hopefully, there'll be times when it doesn't take too much cognitive energy, and that can hopefully even give you energy. But it's a matter of making sure that the bits that you can control, you do that really well. So we always say to people, it's like whatever is your heavy time of the day, the best time of the day for you to do heavy work. Make sure you don't do light stuff in that time. You need to protect that and make sure that that's the time when you do your heavy stuff, so that you get more done in less time with less effort. And then it comes down to, there might be some stuff going on outside of work that you can outsource. There's so many people that are doing tasks that it's like, really one of my clients puts it, he just goes, yeah, you could throw some money at that. And it's like, that's a very pragmatic way to do it. It's like, he just throws money at stuff. It's like, yep, if I throw money, I can get that done. I can outsource that. Someone else can do that. Someone else can clean. Someone else can do this. I had a client of mine in Connecticut who just went, yeah, I guess I could, pay someone else to shovel snow out of the driveway. It's like, yeah, you probably could. So, let's not be spending a lot of time on these tasks, which take a lot of energy outside of work. Let's make sure that we can kind of patch a plan. It's almost like run your time outside of work, almost like you would run a business. Yeah, so making sure that you're doing the right things. Yeah.
Now, we've got a question I'll throw at you throughout. Nathan Morgan asks, if you use your cognitive energy on the hard tasks, won't you leave more drained for the rest of the day?
Yeah, good question. So it depends on the time of the day, Nathan. So if you've got if you've got if you use your cognitive energy at the right time, it will actually take you less cognitive energy. So say, for example, you're a morning person and you do heavy stuff at that time, it might take you 10 energy credits. If you were to try to do that later, when you're that's really not the natural time for you to have the cognitive energy, it might take you 15 to 20 energy credits. So you don't want to be spending it at different times. And the good thing is, it's like, say, for example, if you do a lot of your heavy stuff in the morning, if that's the time to do it, that's a really great thing, because then you can work on lighter stuff for the afternoon, which is still productive, but you don't have to work on a lot of heavier stuff at that time. So it depends on what's the best way for you to structure things. And everyone's different. So I can't say that everyone should structure their day a certain way, but what I can say is that these are the tools that you can work out how to apply in a way that works best for you. So yeah, but you will, a morning person should run out of most of their cognitive energy in the morning, because that's the best time for them to make it's like the biggest bang for their buck.
You mentioned a comment there, energy credits, Vanessa. Talk me through energy credits. You said expelling 10, 15. How many energy credits do we have a day in terms of this concept?
Yeah, so it's more like a relative thing. So we just get people to think about, well, you know what, if I've got 100 energy credits a day, that's when everything's working beautifully. All
Yeah.
right, that's when I'm doing the right things at the right time. Things feel good, life's pretty great. All right, so when everything's going well, we've got about 100 energy credits in a day. And my 100 energy credits might be different to someone else's 100. That doesn't matter. All
Yeah.
right, it's whatever your definition of 100 energy credits is. Now, if things aren't going so well, if we haven't slept properly, if work's stressing us out too much, and our prefrontal cortex isn't thinking as efficiently as it should be, maybe we don't have 100 energy credits. Maybe we only get to have 60 energy credits that day. So if we only have 60, we only get to spend 60. Once you start trying to spend 100 when you only have 60, that is a very quick path to burnout. So it's like a budget. If you want more energy credits, then you have to work out how to either earn more or spend less. And it's often easier to spend less so that you have more to invest. It's just like any budget situation with no borrowing facility of any variety.
Yeah. And I think from a practical application, I think most of the advisors on the line today would know, if I look around my desk now, I won't show it to you, it's pretty disgusting, but, you've got those tasks that always seem to be shuffled to the far left corner of the desk. And then you kind of find an hour and a half at that right optimal time of the day, and it just pops up without really thinking about it. And suddenly those 5 files have gone. But at the time when you're looking at them, you're just like, I'm just not quite prepared to engage in those. And then when you actually get dug into them, there they are, they're all done. And it's about breaking down that day for me. And I know, Vanessa, when you came in and spoke to my team about this exact concept, was breaking the day down. Now, it doesn't have to be 5-minute blocks or 6-minute blocks or 15-minute blocks. It's understanding how long you can stay focused with those energy and that cognitive energy during that journey throughout the day, and how you work at the pace you work as well. Maybe if you can touch a bit on pace as well for different people.
Yeah, that's a really good point. We certainly had some aha moments in your group, which was great. We had quite a spread of paces, which is really good. You actually want that in a business, which is awesome. But this comes down to kind of like your attention span. So the average attention span is around 40 to 45 minutes. But that's not everybody. So some people are much shorter than that. Some people are much longer than that. And there's no right or wrong. So a lot of people have grown up with this idea of focusing for longer is better. No, it's not for everybody. So for people that have got a shorter attention span, that's possibly the worst advice you could give them. So it's giving people permission to break down and chunk down tasks according to less than or longer than average attention span. And when people get the permission to do that, it really helps. So for example, for me, I normally go in about sort of half an hour blocks roughly if I'm working on certain things. And it's not to say that I can't focus for longer, it just takes more energy credits for me to do that. So it's not saying you can't. It just says, you know, let's try to control the bits that we can control so that we do that. So as an example, you know, I'm at the very pointy end of my master's. I've submitted half of my dissertation. I've got another half to go. I'll be done at the end of June. But this master's has taken anywhere between 20 and 30 hours a week additional time on top of running a business and a full-time job. And I know a lot of advisors have been studying and doing their masters and you know, all of their requirements for FASEA and things like that. So, you know, there's been a lot of people studying. There always has, there always will be. Okay, we're not the first people to do it. We won't be the last. But I think the trick is, it's like, I'm so pleased that I had all these tools at my disposal because I knew how to break things down. I knew how to understand certain parts of my study have been quite heavy, certain parts of my study have actually felt quite light, and a lot in between. But I have to structure my days accordingly. So it might have been that I might even do some study time between 9 and 11, but I do work between 7 a.m. and 9 a.m. because I can work on lighter things. Then I switch across to study. Then I go back and I always do my client things in the afternoon in most cases. So, you know, so it's not to say that you can't do things outside of what's preferable for you, but the more that you can control certain parts, the easier it will be. So for example, I know that it's not neuroscientifically possible for me to do 8 hours of heavy study in a day. So why would I organize a study day? That makes no sense. All right, so for me, it's kind of like half an hour blocks. And if I am working on heavy stuff, which I must say, that doing a whole stack of research, I've had to read like hundreds of scientific papers for my dissertation, and there'll still be more to go. Some of these are like 30 pages long. There's statistics, like it's, you know, it's pretty heavy stuff. So I tend to do, you know, to budget. If I am studying on a weekend, I would probably still only do about 4 hours worth of heavy work. I'd break it up. I factor in movement in there as well so that that refreshes my brain. So it probably only takes me to do 4 hours what it would otherwise take me to do 6 hours or 7 hours if I was structuring it a bit differently. So I'm better to study across a whole number of days than I am to go, right, I'm going to have 1 or 2 study days. That wouldn't be effective to do that. So there's so many different ways that people can apply this. Now, how I apply my study is going to be very different to how other people apply it, but the principles are the same. So it's really just how you choose to apply that. But I'm so glad that, you know, we've learned all this as part of this master's as well, but have had access to it, because otherwise, you know, it just would have taken so long to get through a lot of this work. You know, my background's not in scientific writing. I've had to develop a whole stack of neural pathways that are different to write scientifically. I still have to switch between writing blogs and writing things for business and my clients there, which is very different to writing for science and my dissertation. So yeah, a lot of it's actually been quite heavy. I will be the first to admit that. There's been some anxious moments, but we're getting through, and I'm so glad that we've been able to do this and to put this into practice.
And I think, Vanessa, I speak on behalf of all the advisors and or support staff that might be dialed into your webinar today. I think the administrational burden of providing financial advice has skyrocketed over the last 12, 18, 24 months. You know, the work we must do and therefore the cost we must spend to service our clients at the same level. So when we think about my business as an indicator, you know, we've had to hire 2 or 3 or 4 new people to come in to do exactly what we were doing previously. As I hired them, you're spot on. My advert said client services manager or associate advisor or paraplanner. They come in, they may have the skill set, but how do I, as an advisor and a business owner, know that they are going to integrate into my firm with the right pace, that pace works with that pace or their cognitive energy? What's some tools that you could give to our attendees today to help them in the recruitment of a right cultural fit for cognitive energy?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. There's so many things there. I think firstly, the pace is an interesting one. We get plenty of advisors who use our pace indicators as part of their recruitment tool. So if they're hiring someone who they need them to be able to jump around between tasks and not stress out too much, you know, if they've got to be quite flexible in terms of their focus and moving around, you know, don't hire someone at the other end of the spectrum. That's just going to end in tears. It also depends on the pace of the people already in the business. So you don't want everyone to be the same pace, but if you've got 2 people working closely together, you don't want them to be completely different if that's going to lead to friction. So having that as part of the recruitment process is really good. I would also say focusing on this light to medium work, okay, and making sure that whatever you're asking for in your job description, someone else finds that really light. So as an example, at the moment, I have an advisor who's he's just recruited someone, yay. He really needed someone to be able to like follow up everyone, you know, where's everyone at, you know, the workflows. They've got the business systems in place, so the workflow is actually going pretty well, but it still needs to be like people still need to do what they said they were going to do by the day they said they were going to do it by. And so when I was coaching, it was like, and I saw the job description and I said, okay, what's the one thing that you really need this person to do? And he was joking. He's like, I actually just really need a pit bull. Like I need a pit bull who's going to be on everyone's heels, following everyone up to make sure that things are getting done all the time and holding people to account and making sure that things aren't falling through the cracks. I'm like, okay, well, at no point in this job description have you asked for that. Okay. So it's like, it's almost like because he finds that really heavy, he didn't want to put that in there because he didn't want to put people off recruiting. But it's like, you know what? You actually want to weed out people who don't want that. I was doing this with another advisor that I was coaching as well. And we really worked on the job description about the activities, behaviors, and mindset that we needed this person to be able to do. So not just here's a job description of a paraplanner, but here's all the other bits that went with it. And he also had a great experience. He said I had fewer people applying, but the people that I had applying had really good follow-up skills, really good mindset, exactly the culture fit that we needed in the business. And because they were so specific on that, he's like, we had two good hires that he did in the time that we were coaching together, and he just says this ability to really understand the recruitment process and really ask for what it is that you need according to these kind of parameters. He said this is a game changer. This has just changed who I hire. It's changed how we structure the business. It's changed my energy levels in terms of, you know, he didn't have to feel like he was following up a lot. So there's a lot that can be done as part of the recruitment process to make sure that you're getting the right people who find those tasks and those activities and behaviors and mindset light. And if they don't, move on.
Yep. Look, I think that's wise. And so, if you think an advisor's day, again, from my own experience, we are pushed and pulled in multiple directions throughout the day, and sometimes, as a business owner, we struggle that we need to be doing things yesterday. Client wants something done in the next 5 minutes. It may not align with our cognitive energy, the complexity of some of those meetings. So, what do you see as some of the mistakes that advisors make, small business owners make with cognitive energy when we are at the mercy, I dare say, of our clients' needs and objectives?
Yeah, and I think one of the things there is to sort of start to get your head a little bit more around, are we really at the mercy of clients? Now, I know this sounds crazy, but interestingly enough, I pay my financial advisors handsomely, 5 figures every year, not to bother me. Now, I also am not paying them to jump on what I need at 5 minutes notice. Okay, they've got me trained that I get 2 reviews with them a year. They book them 6 weeks in advance, going via car and not via me, because otherwise they never get done. So they're organized, and when I need things along the way, which invariably comes up, obviously, because, stuff happens. It's like, oh, I'm going to buy a car. Someone needs to sort out that. And, whatever, I'm buying or selling something. And, someone else needs to fill in forms because I don't fill in forms. Okay. So, all of these kind of things are really important things, but like, I would never expect my advisors to jump on something and get it done in 5 minutes. Okay. So what I would, and I get that there's some clients out there that would, but I think there's a lot of times we are training bad behaviors in clients. You are the professionals, you are the experts. All right. You can call the shots a little bit on how things run. All right. So that people there, they're paying you for you to be able to do your job really well. And so I think, making sure that you're planning your diary 4 to 6 weeks in advance so that you get clients and you get client reviews at the time that suits your cognitive energy, not theirs. All right, then that would make sense to do so. Because let's face it, when clients are talking about themselves, that's pretty light. Okay, it's fine for them. So you need to make sure that it's working in with your cognitive energy around whether it's light, medium to heavy for that. And the other thing as well is like clients just need to know that you're onto it and when you're going to get something to them by. All right. So if I'm on the receiving end of that, and I say, hey, can you look at this? Can you just let me know when you can get that to me? It could be by the end of the week, could be next week. I don't really mind, so long as I know when to expect it and I'm not spending cognitive energy on, oh, did they get the email? Have they responded? Are they away? Are they onto it? Are they not onto it? How long is this going to take? Like, I don't want to spend cognitive energy on that. But when I get a response, reasonably quickly that same day at some stage, whether this is the plan, we're on it, we'll get back to you by such and such a time, I'm totally fine with that. And we have this situation with a lot of the professional services we work with, where it's accountants, lawyers. Again, even my lawyers, they're super, super efficient. And I had to kind of go, actually, you know what? Like, I don't need answers that quickly. Okay. My stuff is not usually time sensitive kind of things. It's contracts and that kind of stuff. So, it's lovely that you feel that you've really got to respond quickly, but just so long as I know that you've got it and you're on it, I'm actually okay with that. So manage your cognitive energy accordingly. And that's kind of the way that we roll with that. So I think a lot of advisors are sort of like, oh, I've got to get onto this like immediately. I have to respond to this email immediately. And it's like, no, actually you don't. If you're in a meeting with another client, you wouldn't respond to that email right then. So you've actually got more time than you think. You can be using your out of office response just to kind of manage expectations on when you will be accessing emails, if that helps you kind of take baby steps to losing the guilt around not sitting on email and responding straight away. But there's so many different ways that we can do it. And I think you're right, getting most advisors think that they are at the mercy. And what that does is it kind of like, it takes your control away. You're running the show, they're paying you for your expertise. Now, sure, there's going to be a few things that come up that are urgent, but most of the time, I would say that advisors have more time than they realize before the client will get antsy. And so long as you just manage expectations with when it's due, it's fine.
And Vanessa, for those of you who were on at the start of the webinar, we talked about your background, not only in neuroscience and mental health, and certainly this concept of cognitive energy, but also a lot of fitness. So health and fitness, 16 years you've been in that space as well. How do they sit side by side? It's an interesting mix of I suppose, professions and qualifications. How do you find cognitive energy is affected by fitness?
Yeah, no, that's a really great question. So they both go hand in hand. So there's a lot of evidence to show how the brain responds to movement. Movement creates what we call neurogenesis, which is a production of new neurons. So exercise actually makes you smarter. Yay, very cool. So
and fitter.
Moving and fitter, exactly. I know it's so good that I had a whole stack of neuroscience to back me up on this now. But I remember like I sort of inherently knew that I felt more productive and my brain worked better when I exercised. But 20 years ago, we didn't have a lot of that in science. So there was a few, discussions with certain people that I've worked with over the years to explain why I exercise in the middle of the day, and that is actually very productive, and maybe they should get on board. And to be fair, I've had quite a few people who have been very supportive of that, so that's also really good as well. But yeah, no, so that they go hand in hand. So a lot of what you can do physically can affect your brain mentally and be really and can be really useful in terms of your productivity side of things. So, if you're not doing your 10,000 steps a day, and if you're not, doing some exercise to a point of, I always like to say, sweaty underwear, that's usually a key that you've got some good things going on for the brain. If you're not doing that, you're also doing your brain a bit of a disservice.
Love it.
In terms of working better. So they are, if you've got more energy mentally, you've probably got more energy physically, and vice versa. So they definitely link in together. They're definitely linked with productivity, and also this idea of like just even the way that we train in the fitness and athletic arena. We use this concept of periodization. We don't train heavy, and this is how we got how we put together our intellectual property on this heavy, medium, and light tools that we have. Is that we don't train heavy every single day because the bodies can't cope with that. Your body actually needs to be stressed so that you build a resilience to that exercise, and then you become better at it next time. So it's like you build up this strength. It's the same thing with like we can build our resilience to stress. So so that's a really useful thing as well. So it's how do you structure your training regime we do a mix of heavy, medium, and light over the course of training up for a program, and training up for an event is the same thing that we need to do over a day, a week, a month, and a year for training, for actually executing our day-to-day work. So it's those periodization principles. We can absolutely apply them to our brains as well.
Look, I think it's a really interesting one. So we talked about in our session, Tokyo Olympics, where these people train right up to the day of I suppose execution into their field. And so for us out there now, can you strip it all right back for us, because we're not going to be able to get off the end of this webinar and implement an ideal or a concept of cognitive energy. So what are some of the 3 or 4 key things if you said, right, get off this webinar? Great insight, great understanding. What's the 3 practical tips you can give the advisors and people on the webinar today to actually start to implement the concept of cognitive energy in their businesses?
So plan your weeks out further in advance. Okay, so if you've got, you should be contacting clients for reviews at least 4 to 6 weeks in advance. That's not going to work for all of them, but it'll work for more than you think will. So make sure that you've got that. Then you've got more ability to plan and get things executed within that time. Highlight if you had to have 1 hour a day of heavy cognitive energy that is you're really productive during that time, protect that. So only do heavy things at that time. Don't find yourself doing light stuff at that time, and stop being at the whim of like, oh, but clients have to, I have to be available for client meetings all the time. Most of the advisors that I work with end up saying, like even though they set their Calendlies and their calendars and things like that to say, when they're available. It's like, you can book me anytime between these times. And people don't actually work out that they haven't actually given any morning times as being available. It's like, just do it and see what happens. What's the worst that can happen? Someone asks and you have to go outside of that for your usual routine for 1 or 2 clients. That's okay. That's totally fine. So you're never going to get it perfect, but we have a lot more control over this than people think that we do. So I think protect your hour of power. That's really, really, really important. And this is for yourself, but it's also for your team as well. So make sure that you understand what their hour of power is, and how do you create an environment where other people can apply this as well. So understand your hour of power, book your diary further in advance, and stop working on things according to urgency. Work on things according to, what's my cognitive energy like right now? Okay, that needs to be done. I'll work on that. That matches. So when people can start to do that, that's generally a fairly good place to start. And like you said, we don't expect people to be amazing after this webinar, but we've got plenty of content out there. We've got plenty of workshops. We've got online courses. There's really no excuse not to get access to this information now.
And I think the other big one that I took away from our session, Vanessa, was heavy and light tasks. Now, whilst it sounds a little bit cumbersome to go through your day and look at your diary Monday to Friday and say, right, what are my heavy tasks? What are my light tasks? I know my heavy task is file notes. I hate them. Whereas some of the guys in my office love it, love writing file notes. I don't know why, but they love it. But so actually understanding what tasks you do, what is heavy, what is light, that will help you then structure your day to that, as you said, that 1 hour of power. And certainly that, one of the things I took away was the 4 to 6 weeks in advance. It doesn't always work for every client. There's no doubt about that. But if you structure your diary, then you can structure the energy that you're going to have, knowing what other external factors might be part of your life in 4 to 6 weeks' time as well.
Yeah, absolutely. That's right. So structuring your own time according to that is super important. Clients they'll just kind of fit in. It's okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And then from a profitability point of view, you touched on it earlier today. Once you start to work on getting more efficient, because efficiency is that buzzword. Cross, we've been saying that as advisors and business owners for 15 years since I've been in the industry. How do you make it more efficient? How do you do this process here? And efficiency is all around business processes rather than actual fundamentals of efficiency. So if you just want to touch on that a little bit more, how does efficiency in actual energy boost profitability for our webinar attendees?
Yeah, so when you manage your cognitive energy well, the byproduct is that you effectively get more done in less time. And so therefore you've got more hours available. So those hours could be spent going and getting more clients. and or that for everyone in the business, those hours could be spent doing more things. So it just means that you need to hire less staff normally. Normally what we find is like people actually don't need to hire more staff. They need the current staff that they do have to be doing the right tasks at the right time, and preferably with the right mindset. That's a whole other issue as well. But any form of negativity, weed that out really fast. And so if you can do that, then the time management is the byproduct. It's not the goal. So managing your energy is the right thing to do. And then if you get more, an extra 2 to 3 hours of time per day, then that's where the profits come in, as well as the cost savings. So, one of our clients, they had 2 people that it turned out they just, they should have been bringing in a lot more money based on the salaries. They were both on, what are they both on? They were both on 120, 130, something like that. They should have been bringing in more business, and they weren't. So they were really overpaid for the tasks they were doing. And so it turned out that they ended up leaving the business. So this person saved an extra $250,000 a year on salaries, restructured amongst the people that they already had. So they're 9 people down to 7 people. They then, because they had the right people doing the right tasks, and these people stepped up and better processes and doing the right things at the right time and better mindset, then the key business owner was able to go out and get more business. So they were able to increase their profitability by about 50% per month. So 50% per month. They didn't have to move offices because they weren't running out of space, because they saved 2 seats, and they saved $250,000 a year on salaries. So that's getting up to 7 figures over just a few years, really, in the scheme of things.
It's not. Sorry, Vanessa, we've just got a comment from Ashley. She says, or he says, sorry, you don't have a limited supply. Brain uses the same amount of glucose watching TV as thinking through a complex problem. Just need to freshen up. A quick walk around the block works for me. Maybe just kind of bring that back in. I mean, as you said, different things work for different people. And certainly, you're talking there about that fresh walk, getting you back on track. Maybe touch on that for me.
Yeah. So some things will take slightly more cognitive energy than others. Like it might be different for different people as to what's similar. But generally speaking, certain things will take more energy than others. But you're right in terms of like being able to go for a quick walk. That can re-energize, because that's that idea of what we talked about earlier of this movement, and that can create neurogenesis. It can create an environment where the brain is actually thinking more strategically, more creatively. You've just fired up the neurons to work more effectively. So going for a quick walk can work for a lot of people. Some people need more than a quick walk. Some people need a lot more exercise to get similar results. It kind of depends on your fitness level as well to start with. But that's a great place to start. For a lot of people, if we could just go for a quick walk around the block. I was using the examples during COVID of like create a commute, for people that have been working from home, or even on the days that we are still working from home. Not everyone's back in the office 5 days. Create a commute, walk to work, like leave your house, walk and come back, and that can be enough to kind of get things going as well. So everyone's got to find their different things. I tend to exercise in the middle of the day because that's when I'm less productive cognitively, but I'm pretty good in the afternoon. So it just gives me a good boost to go out there and really refresh my brain while my energy is low, and then it really gives it a great boost for the afternoon. So factor your commutes around that time. Some people now, we're encouraging them to, if they live close to wherever they work, it's like maybe they do some work from home, and then when they get low on cognitive energy, walk into the office, and make it a decent walk. Like I do that as well. I walk 35, 40 minutes into the office when I'm a lull. I get up and I work straight away at home, and then I go into the office. But I use that as part of my commute, part of my walk, part of my resetting of the brain. Different things work for different people, and that's just a matter of finding what it is.
Look, great point. And look, feel free to throw any questions at Vanessa. We have only got a couple of minutes left, but I do want to touch on something Vanessa touched on earlier. So the AFA magazine is coming out right now. I think it's right in print. There is an article that Vanessa touches on there. She does have 2 workshop series coming up on the 13th and the 27th of May. and has made a really special offer for those people who are on today and or see the article in the AFA magazine. So early bird prices. So right now for the 13th and the 27th, if you book both of those sessions, one of them is on structuring your day, so how to structure your day, and the other one is on mindset. So two really important aspects to ensure efficiencies, productivity, and cognitive energy. They normally are priced at $700 for the next 2 days. Early bird prices, $100 discount down to $600. Then after 2 days' time, up till the 6th of May, $900 with $100 discount down to $800. So just I'll touch on those couple of key things there again. 2 sessions, the 13th and the 27th of May. You need to use the code AFA, all in capital letters, 100. Surprise, surprise, it gives you a $100 discount off. So that's AFA 100. Need to book that in the next 2 days. If you do want a $100 discount down to $600, after early bird prices finish on the 29th of August, it'll go to $800. And thanks Ashley, you can buy a lot of coffee for that, and it may help. But I think if you're wanting to focus on a business and get the most out of your business and efficiencies, this is a great way to step up. Coffee is a great cover up. I've been using it for many years until I did the session with Vanessa and really broke the team down. It was a great team bonding as we go into this new world of evolving businesses away from just keep punching through as much as possible. So some really benefits there. Vanessa, you might tell the guys, how do we go away and book?
Absolutely. So if you go to our website, it's nextevolutionperformance.com. It's very easy to Google. And then if you just go to the events section, so it's one of the first tabs that comes up. So it's nextevolutionperformance.com. Head to the events section, and then you'll see that we've got these live workshops coming up. We normally run them a couple of times a year. So this is the one for the first half of the year. There'll probably be another one in the second half of the year, but this is a pretty good offer for the one that we've got off now. We literally just had 5 people book for one of our things. We do cap the numbers. So if you do want to get in, you might want to get in quite quickly on that to come along, and it really is a great way to understand your own cognitive energy, so that you can get more done in less time. If you're already cruising through things and you're already loving the way that you do things and you don't want any different results to what you're currently getting, please don't come. All right, please don't come. All right, that's not what we want there. All right, so if everything's already going according to plan and you're amazing, and please just keep doing what you're doing, because what you're doing is working, okay? And that's awesome. But if you would like a different result to what you're currently getting, and you would like to get a bit more done in less time with less effort, and you would like a language that you can speak with your staff about, so that this can become a leadership tool as well, because if you're not leading according to this, then the butterfly effect of that is exponentially costly to your business. So it's also really good to kind of put some language behind all of this. People love energy credits. They love the language that we use around this, and they love understanding what's happening with their brain on stress and all this kind of stuff. So if we can help people to understand that a little bit more, and that makes life a little bit easier for you and your staff, fantastic, then please, this workshop is absolutely for you. But if you're already doing amazing things and you feel like you're getting through your days effortlessly, keep doing what you're doing, please.
Yeah, look, I think you're right. And just I want to touch on a point there, Vanessa, you touched on leadership. For me, it gave me an opportunity to go back, invest back into my staff, and give me something else to talk about with the team, rather than just to-do lists, whip lists, and day-to-day tasks, actually trying to reallocate tasks into the right areas. We made some, fundamental wholesale changes off the back of the session you ran with my team. We reallocated. We realized one staff member wasn't right for the business. We had too many similar staff members, and then we've gone back into the recruitment phase. And Jenny, great. You've obviously done a couple of workshops. Jenny Pierce, you have. What if you need a refresher? Is it worth attending? Look, I think absolutely. As with all things, CPD, whether it's in your own cognitive energy, whether it's in technical, I think we all need to remember as that we continue to evolve in financial services and the financial advice profession. It's about time we continue to reinvest. And I've got to tell you, Vanessa, thank you very much on behalf of the AFA and everyone attended today. I think a really fantastic webinar. As I said earlier, up to 1 CPD point available off the back of this. You will get an email. The webinar will go up live on afa.com.au afa.asn.au, our AFA website. You'll get an email from attending today when that is up and live. And remember, early bird, 2 days to go, $100 discount, and the 2 sessions on the 13th and the 27th of May. One on structuring your day, the other on mindset. If you can join me in thanking Vanessa Bennett. Vanessa, any last comments before we finish up today?
Yeah, actually, Jen just raised a great point. Yeah, when it comes to refreshers, that's actually really important as well. And funnily enough, this has been a part of a topic in my dissertation. So how do we work out, how these interventions, especially around mindset, which is probably another chat for another day. But interventions work well up front, and then they come back a little bit. Now, you don't necessarily return to baseline levels, which is good. So you actually want to feel this, but in order to keep these interventions working well, it is really good to keep the conversation going and to just keep the concepts top of mind. It doesn't have to be a big thing. Another thing that we've learned is that when people understand a bit of the neuroscience and the psychology behind things, it also increases the effectiveness of these tools as well, rather than just here's a tool and off you go. So having more background behind that definitely increases the effectiveness as well. So yes, we always love to have people along as refreshers, and you learn from each other. It's very, very interactive. I always joke, you need to wear pants, like we're going to be getting you up and moving around, even though you're on a Zoom screen. But it's very interactive, and we find that people actually learn a lot from each other as well as what they learn from just the content. So yeah, so learn from each other. Just be so open and so curious all the time. I think that's, if you do that, you can't go too far wrong.
Vanessa, look, thank you again. As I said, the title of today was Lead Yourself and Others to Optimal Cognitive Energy and Profits. Hopefully, you've all got a couple of key tips out of today. As you said there, I just want to touch on the 4 ones. Book your calendar 4 to 6 weeks in advance. Highlight that 1 hour of power in your day and protect it like you would your kids' lives. Heavy and light tasks, spend the time, list out your heavy and light tasks, make sure you're allocating to the right times of the day, and urgency and energy. So when you're doing your WIP list, don't list it out in urgency, list it out in energy levels. Again, Vanessa, thank you so much. And from the AFA, Vanessa, thank you all for attending, giving up an hour of your day, investing back into your time to make your team and yourself more efficient. And certainly as we evolve through 2021, we hope you all had a great Easter and look forward to catching up with you again soon at a future event. Thanks so much. Have a great afternoon.